All right, today we're diving into one of the most powerful and, let's face it, most talked about military alliances on the planet, NATO.
You hear this phrase all the time, right? An attack on one is an attack on all. It's the core idea behind NATO. But what does that promise really mean today? I mean, for an alliance that's over 75 years old, facing stuff like cyber attacks and terrorism, how does a 20th century pact even begin to handle 21st century threats?
So, here's what we're going to cover. We'll start at the very beginning, right after World War II. Then we'll look at what happened when its biggest enemy, the Soviet Union, just disappeared. And we'll bring it all the way up to today, looking at the huge challenges it's facing right now.
Okay, so let's get right down to it. What at its absolute core is NATO all about?
Everything, and I mean everything, boils down to this one thing, Article 5. It's the absolute foundation of the whole alliance. Think of it like the ultimate I've got your back promise. If one member gets attacked, it's considered an attack on everybody, and they all have to respond. It's a massive security guarantee.
But here's something you might not realize. NATO isn't just a military club. It's also a political alliance. Right now, that's 32 countries from North America and Europe sitting around a table, talking and making decisions together on security stuff. And that's really the secret sauce, right? It's this combination of political talk backed up by serious military power that makes NATO, well, NATO.
Now, to really get why NATO even exists, you gotta rewind the clock. We have to go back to its birth, its very first major challenge, the massive shadow cast by the Soviet Union right after World War II.
So picture this. It's 1949. The world is still recovering from the war. 12 countries, including the US and the UK, get together and basically form a defensive shield to stop Soviet expansion in its tracks. The battle lines were drawn. Then, in '55, West Germany joins NATO, and that was a big deal. The Soviets immediately hit back by forming their own rival group, the Warsaw Pact. And for the next 4 decades, you had this incredibly tense standoff, these two massive military blocs just staring each other down, with the Berlin Wall as the ultimate symbol of that division. And then, 1989. The wall comes down, and suddenly the entire game changes.
Which leads to a huge, kind of awkward question. What do you do when the bad guy you were created to fight just disappears? I mean, poof, gone. This was NATO's next big test, a real identity crisis.
Yeah, for a while there, NATO was like a superhero without a villain. People were seriously asking, why do we even need this anymore? So it had to completely reinvent itself. It couldn't just be about defense. It started shifting into new areas, like peacekeeping missions and, get this, it even started building partnerships with the very countries it used to see as enemies.
And this picture, wow, it just perfectly captures that feeling in the air back then. This is 1997, and you're seeing NATO and Russia signing a major agreement, promising to work together for peace. It's kind of wild to look at now, and it just shows you how quickly things can change on the world stage.
And look, this wasn't just a bunch of empty promises. NATO actually got its hands dirty. It stepped in to help end the brutal war in Bosnia. That was its first real military operation. It started this partnership for peace thing, bringing its old rivals into the fold. And then, in 1999, the ultimate proof of this new era, 3 former Warsaw Pact members, the Czech Republic, Hungary, and Poland, became full-fledged NATO allies.
So that begs the question, right? How does a country get into this club? Well, NATO has what they call an open door policy. Basically, any European country that can help with security can ask to join. But it's not easy. It's a super tough process. You have to make huge changes to your military and your government. And here's the kicker, every single one of the 32 members has to say yes. It has to be unanimous. Just one no and the whole thing is off.
All right, so NATO had figured out its post-Cold War purpose. But then the new millennium hit, and with it came a totally new kind of threat. An enemy that didn't have a country, didn't have a traditional army, and didn't respect any borders.
Let's go back to Article 5 for a second, that all for one, one for all promise. Here's a crazy fact for you. In its entire 75-plus year history, it has only ever been used one time.
And that one time, it was in the hours after the 9/11 attacks on the United States. The alliance declared that the attack on America was an attack on all of them. This single decision led to NATO's longest, most difficult mission ever, the 20-year effort in Afghanistan. It completely changed how the alliance thought about security.
Suddenly, security wasn't just about stopping tanks from crossing a border. NATO's to-do list just exploded. They were now dealing with counterterrorism, chasing pirates off the coast of Africa. They had to learn how to fight hybrid warfare, that weird mix of soldiers, fake news, and covert ops. And of course, the big one, cyber attacks.
And this is a really big deal. In 2016, NATO made it official. Cyberspace is a battlefield, just like land, sea, and air. This means a massive cyber attack could be treated just as seriously as a military invasion. It was a huge acknowledgement of just how much the world and warfare had changed.
But here's the thing about history. It has a funny way of repeating itself. Just as NATO was getting its head around all these new, modern threats, an old rival stepped back onto the stage. And, in a way, it brought the alliance right back to where it started.
I mean, just look at the difference. The whole era of cooperation with Russia that started in the 90s, it slammed to a halt in 2014 when Russia annexed Crimea. All that practical teamwork was just suspended, and NATO's focus snapped right back to its original job: defense and deterrence.
And this wasn't just a change in policy papers. You could actually see the response. NATO started sending a lot more troops, ships, and jets to its members in Eastern Europe. It was a very clear, very visible message. We are here and we are ready.
Then came 2022 and Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Well, that kicked things into an even higher gear. NATO set up 4 new battle groups in the east, and for the first time in its entire history, it activated its Rapid Response Force for a real-world defensive mission. A historic move.
And that brings us pretty much up to today, to NATO's newest chapter. A chapter being written by the biggest war on European soil since World War II.
Yeah, Russia's invasion of Ukraine sent shockwaves across the continent. I mean, it caused a geopolitical earthquake. You had Finland and Sweden, 2 countries that had been neutral for decades, even centuries, suddenly deciding that staying out was more dangerous than getting in. When they joined in 2023 and 2024, it completely redrew the security map of Northern Europe.
So when you step back and look at the whole story, it's pretty clear. From staring down Soviet tanks, to fighting terrorism, to shaking hands with old enemies, and now facing a resurgent Russia, NATO's one defining feature has been its ability to change. The alliance today is bigger than it's ever been, and the list of threats is longer and more complex than ever. And that leaves us with the ultimate question, doesn't it? What new challenge will define its next chapter?